Hey guys, David here, and welcome to Digital Outlook. Guys, today we have a very special guest, Billy from UpTrade. Now, Billy is someone that Judy and I have worked with for a number of years. He's actually been in our home, and we have hosted him here in Texas and have had a great time getting to know Billy. Well, Billy is presently working with an international brokerage called UpTrade. And before we go over to Billy, guys, I want to share with you what UpTrade is. I want to just show you their main website. So, guys, this right here is UpTrade. Now, as I said, UpTrade is an international brokerage, and they have every kind of service that you would expect from a normal broker, but it is for digital assets. And get this, no restrictions on jurisdictions. How about that? And they have everything that you would want. And guys, I just think we're going to have a great conversation with Billy today to learn so much about this amazing platform. So, Billy, welcome to Digital Outlook.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to chat. Like you mentioned, we've been good friends for probably the better part of a decade now. I love what you've built with your community, and look, I'm excited to share a little bit more about UpTrade with your guys, and hopefully, there are people in your community that can find real value in the service that we provide.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think the first question that a lot of people will really want to know is what is the different, how do you differentiate between an exchange and a broker? Just explain, for all the folks out here, what is a digital asset broker? What is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, there are a few primary differences. With an exchange, you're just dealing with an online interface. You're punching in your orders. You're getting the trade execution, and that is pretty much all that you can do. Your assets are held in an exchange. They are, subject to any problems that the exchange might have, be that with liquidity, storage, so on and so forth. And hey, guess what? If anything goes wrong, good luck picking up the phone and speaking with anyone. You'll submit a support
Right.
ticket. I'll get back to you within 6 weeks, and
Yep.
that's pretty much the name of the game. The difference between us, a digital asset brokerage versus an exchange, is look. There are a few primary differences. One is the way the trades are executed. So,
Hmm.
as a brokerage, we have access to OTC desks, large private liquidity providers. So we basically aggregate liquidity to find the best available pricing for an asset at any given time that a trade is being done.
Hmm.
So you're always guaranteed the best pricing available. The other primary difference is, the storage element. How do we store assets? Well, we use institutional custody through our partner in Fireblocks, one of the biggest names in the space. I'm sure your
Yep.
community is well aware of Fireblocks and what they do.
Hmm.
And I think the third primary difference, and probably the most important, is the personal touch. Every client has their own personal broker that is there for them throughout the entire client journey. And we really pride ourselves on relationships. That's something that I believe we do second to none in this space.
Hmm.
And the idea is that you meet with your broker, you discuss your goals, they understand you, they get to know you as a person, and their job is to make sure that you succeed in this space, that they're there for you to support you in whatever way that you need, whether that's operationally, whether that is the way that you're positioning your portfolio, the way that you're playing the market cycle. They are there for you at your beck and call whenever you need. That is the primary difference. There's no support tickets, there's no chatbots.
Right.
It's you pick up the phone, you speak with your person, and they're there to help you.
So now, is there like a service fee? Like I know with a lot of exchanges, obviously you don't have that one-on-one interaction, and even like you said, if there is a problem, you're putting in a support ticket. It's usually a third party or AI that you never get to talk to that comes back with that. So the interaction you're talking about, the one-on-one between, the individual investor and their broker, what is the charge for that? Like, how does that actually work?
Yeah, well, we keep the model very simple. So there's no fees to open an account. There's no fees to pick up the phone and speak with your broker. It doesn't
Hmm.
cost anything to utilize our storage or anything like that. There's no fees to withdraw
Right.
your assets. There's no fees to deposit. We cover all of those costs. That is built into our service offering. The only
Right.
time we charge a fee is when clients trade with us. So whenever
Right.
we execute a trade, it's the only time a fee is taken. And look, we believe that once a client begins their journey with UpTrade, that we treat them as a client for life. And so our job, our broker's task is to make sure that they're getting the most they can out of this space, because we
Hmm.
know that the opportunity is there. I mean, like, there aren't many asset classes that you can make a 2, 3, 4, 5, 10x over the span of a couple of years. And
Right.
so we've created a system where we've democratized this sort of private wealth management concept,
Hmm.
brought it to digital assets, and created a much lower barrier to entry for a lot of people.
No, that's great. And so basically, there is no fee for someone signing up. Of course, they go through the Know Your Customer, the KYC. We're all used to that. There's no fee for them to pick up the phone, like you said, talk to their broker and discuss their goals and get some insight of what's happening in the marketplace or anything like that. So there's no cost for that. The one thing that I think you touched on there was the custody aspect. Now, a lot of people today, a lot of the hardware wallets are getting attacked. We're hearing that all the time, people losing either their keys or getting compromised with their keys, or wallets actually getting attacked by quantum computing and stuff like that. So with Fireblocks, it's an institutional grade custodian, but you're saying there is absolutely no fee for people to utilize that, like there are with some other custodians where they charge like a 2% fee just to hold it in there. So there's no fee for doing that either. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All
So,
right.
I mean, look, there's no, we pay the fee, so
Yeah.
we do
Yeah.
pay a
Right.
pretty penny to utilize Fireblocks'
Yeah.
services, but that's something that's a choice that we've made. We want to make
Hmm.
sure that if a client of ours wants to hold their assets with us, and again, they
Yeah.
don't have to. People can self custody. That's
Right.
totally fine,
Okay. That's good to know.
and we
Yeah.
can support them in doing so if they want to. But we want to
Right.
make sure that if they do choose to hold their assets with us, that
Yeah.
they're being held in the most secure way possible through segregated wallets, vaults, multi-party computation technology. That is what Fireblocks offers.
Hmm.
We will cover the cost of that. That is no problem to us.
Yep.
We just want to make sure that if people are utilizing our services, that nothing is going to go wrong. And again, we've got a stellar track record. So does Fireblocks. And
Hmm.
so we will keep utilizing them as long as the biggest names in this space and the biggest names in traditional finance are willing to utilize Fireblocks' technology.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so on we.
No, that's really good. So now the biggest thing is someone goes through the KYC process. Now they want to fund their account. So because you are, dealing with jurisdictions right around the wide world in the UK and Canada, United States, basically, so many different countries around the world. How do folks get in there and fund their account? Like what options are available for that?
Yeah, so we support a large number of different fiat currencies
Hmm.
that clients can send through and trade with. And again, you can do that through wire transfer. If you're in the US, you can send an ACH.
Okay.
In Australia, we've got this thing called PayID. There are a number of ways that people can fund their account. They can send crypto directly as well. We keep it as flexible as possible. We trade
Hmm.
over 500 different assets. As long as they pass our sort of compliance checks and criteria, make sure that we're not listing any scams, we do
Right.
have a lot of options for clients to be able to trade.
And so mentioning the assets, so you have 500 different assets. The one big thing is now are what are the trading pairs like? Can you trade basically anything for anything, or do you have to go through like a stable coin and utilize that trading pair or Bitcoin? Like how do the trading pairs work?
Yeah, we keep it as simple as possible. So you can basically trade any pairs on our platform. You can trade XRP to XLM directly, Bitcoin to Solana, whatever it is that you want to trade, you can do that directly through our platform. You don't need to go into a
Right.
stable coin first or a fiat currency.
Right. Okay. Now for, online access, a lot of, people are used to with the exchanges. Okay. They get on there, they see their account and all that. So do you guys have like a working portal or do they deal directly with the broker? Like how is that experience for them?
Yeah, yeah. So we do have an online portal. It's quite
Hmm.
good. It's quite seamless to use. We encourage people to use that as much as they can. We've got a lot of security in place on that portal, two-factor authentication. We do IP tracking and things like that to make sure there are no unauthorized requests or logins on their accounts.
Yep.
So we really deem that to be the safest way to place trades and make requests for withdrawals and things like that. But again, look, I mean, as we know, things happen in the world. Technology can sometimes be a little bit unreliable. We've seen instances even in Australia where, I mean, was it last year or the year before where the Amazon
Mhm.
Web Services
Right,
servers
right,
went
right.
down
Hmm.
and like, people couldn't access a whole host of things. That's the great thing about, having that personal element where people can send an email, call their broker if they can't
Right.
access, a website for whatever reason. We do have those backups in place.
No, that's fantastic. And that's another big deal. So a lot of people, they'll go through the KYC, but with UpTrade, after they've gone through that, everything's been approved, they're all okay. You guys actually have somebody that reaches out personally and calls people so they know, hey, look, this is who we are, what we're doing. What is the, turnaround in times of like, you're trying to get a hold of your broker? Is there always someone available? Like, how is that working?
Yeah, so we operate a 24-hour business.
Okay.
So anytime people want to make a trade, place a withdrawal, things like that, people can do that anytime they want. We understand that this is a 24/7 market. We need to be available for them.
Yep.
Our brokers work as many hours as humanly possible. They try to make themselves as available and as flexible as possible for their clients. They schedule in calls. I think the way that most of our clients, the way that they currently use the broker service is that they'll have
Right.
a regular cadence on which they catch up with their broker. That might be monthly, could be
Hmm.
quarterly. Some people even weekly. Depending
Hmm.
on the client relationship, how often they want to, get an update on their portfolio, how the market's going, and things like that.
Right.
You can set that up with your broker. We can completely personalize and tailor the experience around the client.
Right.
And I think that's, we really value those client relationships and providing as much value as possible to our clients is kind of
Hmm.
our number one goal. We want to see our clients succeed. That is the most important thing to us. We
Hmm.
treat them like they're our family. And, that's something I'm really proud of to be a part of this organization and say that
Right.
truly you will not experience a service like this anywhere else.
Right, right, right. No, I've been very much impressed in the short time that I have participated with UpTrade, just the interaction. I even got family members that have joined up, and one of the things, of course, that's near and dear to us is that when we see, let's say, some significant price appreciation, and at this point, we are wanting to take some off the table. A lot of these exchanges that I've Coinbase, Kraken, Uphold, Robinhood, to name them, I don't mind. They'll have these withdrawal fees. How does or not just withdrawal fees, but withdrawal limits? So, in terms of, UpTrade, how does that work for you guys? Like, are there, withdrawal limits? Because you already said there's no fees for withdrawing, but are there limits on the amount that you can withdraw in a monthly time frame?
No, absolutely not. So, look, the way that I see UpTrade is we've kind
Hmm.
of, I think I may have mentioned this previously, but we've kind of taken this angle of democratizing a service that is traditionally found in traditional financial asset classes for
Hmm.
larger investors. And
Yep.
we're giving that, packaging it up, giving it to digital asset investors. And so, one of the things that people with a lot of money and a lot of connections have the value of and the
Right,
benefit
right.
of is not having those limitations placed upon them that are often placed upon us common folk,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
lack of a
yeah.
better term. And
Yep.
so that's the kind of service that we provide to our clients. So there are no limits to how much you can withdraw. I mean, look, if we're
Mhm.
talking about $100 million, the bank might turn around and say, look, this is going to take a couple of days and a couple of tranches. But,
Yeah.
aside from those edge cases, and
Yeah.
I'm yet to see a withdrawal. I've seen some very large withdrawals before, but not
Yeah.
quite 100 million yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope that some of us get there.
Yeah.
But no, there are no limits. There are no fees. We can get funds into clients' bank accounts within a couple of days. It's
Right.
yeah. There's really no there's no nasty surprises waiting for people.
Now with crypto withdrawals, how does that work? How does a digital asset withdrawal work if someone wanted to do that?
Yeah, so we are pretty crazy about security. So look, if somebody plans to use UpTrade as a service that they can as quickly as possible move cryptocurrency from point A to point B and trade on a decentralized exchange and then
Yeah.
come back and withdraw it again, it's probably not going to be the service for them.
Okay.
We're very, very strict on security. So we've got a wallet whitelisting process.
Yep.
We have a questionnaire to make sure that that it's not a nefarious request. We've got
Yep.
two-factor authentication, and then we bring in a third-factor element to it as well, where we make sure that a broker calls their client
Okay.
and understands that that's actually a genuine request from them, and that's
Right.
going to happen when withdrawals are made, and that
Right.
may slow down the process sometimes. And that's okay with us because we know that our
Yeah.
clients' assets are 100% safe.
No, that's really good because I mean, if somebody did lose their passwords and they lost their device that had their two-factor authentication on there, and somebody else knew that, the fact that you will actually phone and make a personal connection to ensure that this is in fact the account holder that is making the request, I think that's a pretty big one. Well, from just what's going on in the marketplace right now, where we're seeing a lot of volatility. And, a lot of people, there's a lot of services out there that, where you just don't have access to them when you really, really need them. I brought this up. In fact, just today, my own mom in Canada there with an exchange was literally locked out, not able to make deposit, not able to move anything, not able to buy anything. And of course, now the price has gone up about 10, 12%. And, those things can hurt. They can cost. And especially when we watch, a race to the trough, if the price really, really spiked and there were folks that said, hey, look, I've got these various tiers and goals. You want to have access. You want to be able to have access to your broker and or to your exchange. But this is where I think a broker has been a big deal. I've had brokerage services that I've utilized for years. You and I, we've had a great relationship. You have been my broker for a number of years. And so, we've had that experience where, when we needed to get that liquidity, we were able to access it and we were able to, when we needed to buy, we were able to buy. And so this is a service that I think really the community needs to pay, special attention to. The fact that it costs you nothing and that you can also keep your prior, no one's saying you have to close your other accounts with these various exchanges, but this is just another major off ramp that they can use. So I guess the question that comes out a lot is, in terms of accessibility, where in the international marketplace, like where can you draw clients from? Like, is there any limitations at all?
Yeah, look, we can't just take clients from anywhere, unfortunately. We have a
Yep.
pretty broad scope, especially given that we are a sort of a boutique offering. We don't have, hundreds
Mhm.
and thousands of clients.
Yep.
We sort of, the service is a little bit gate kept. I might actually add as well that, I
Mhm.
just want to make sure that everyone's clear that we have a minimum
Sure.
trade size of $2,000 per asset. So,
Yeah. Right.
um,
Right.
it's not for everyone. We're not trying to become the largest digital service provider in the world. We want to
Right.
make sure that the service that we're offering and
Hmm.
the level of service that we're offering we can maintain. So
Yeah.
in that sense, we can't take every single client in the world. In the same breath, to come back to your question, we
Yep.
have a very broad scope in the types of clients we can work with and where they come from.
Yep.
But like there are edge cases where if you are let's say we're an Australian-based company, and now if I had an Australian person reach out and say, hey, I'm an Australian by birth, but I live in Russia. I have lived there for 10 years, and that's my
Yeah.
primary place of residence. It's where all my bank accounts are set up and things like that. That
Yeah.
is an example of a client that we can't work with because Russia is
Right.
a
Right.
sanctioned
Right.
country, right? So obviously everyone's situation is different. I don't want
Yeah.
to make any broad sweeping
No,
statements.
right,
We have
right.
a
But
very,
you can handle
yeah,
people in the Commonwealth, right? So we're talking, like out New Zealand and maybe UK, Canada, of course, here in the United States and stuff like that. And so, there are,
yeah.
Europe, I imagine those jurisdictions are available for folks to reach out and access the services that UpTrade offers. Is that right? Or
Yeah, yeah. So we've worked
okay.
with many people from those parts of the world, people that
Yeah,
come from, work with a lot of Canadians, a lot of
yep,
Europeans, and things like
yep.
that. Again, like I said, I don't want to make any broad sweeping
No,
statements
right.
because I don't want people to
Yeah,
think that everything's, you could be in anywhere. But no,
yeah,
look, what I would encourage is like
yeah,
if if this sounds like a service that is something that is of value to you and can
yeah,
provide value to your life and your investment journey,
yeah,
reach out to us.
yeah,
Try signing up for an account. If by any chance you
yeah.
are in a specific jurisdiction that we can't work with, we will let you know.
Right.
But we will make sure that once you've done that, we'll be kind enough to let you know, hey, sorry, this is not going to work. But again,
Yeah.
our scope is very broad.
Oh, that's fantastic. And Billy, I just want to say thank you for coming on and just being open about what the services that UpTrade provides and making that, known and available to the community. And guys, I'll tell you what, you've heard me talk about this on all my videos where we do have a link in the description of all of our videos that you can utilize to sign up with UpTrade. However, even if you don't use that link, what I encourage folks to do, and you decide to go to the website, it at least deserves a measure of your consideration and see what they are going to, be able to provide to you. Because I'll tell you what, in this space and how quickly things move, it makes a big difference having as many off ramps as you possibly can and places to trade when you're really, really going to need one. So, guys, I'll tell you what, until our next video, I really appreciate you being here. And Billy, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you. And before we go, I just want to
Yeah.
mention as well that look, if you guys want to sign up, please use David's link. We've already put out a dedicated research report, an outlook report on XRP for the Discord community. If you use
Mhm.
David's link, we will make sure that we've got a dedicated in-house research team. We've got analysts that work and provide and feed our brokers with information every day. So we've
Mhm.
always got our finger on the pulse with what's going on in the market. So whenever there is a special report, something that we want to do for the digital outlook community, make sure you use that link and we will make sure that we look after you. We will get you that information before anybody else gets their hands on it. And let's keep the good times rolling. I've got optimism for what's coming in this market over the
Right.
next 6, 12 months. So
Yeah.
I hope to see more of this community onboarded and getting the best service available to them.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Billy. Take care.